Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Barthelemy Mwanzangane, a refugee originally from Democratic Republic of Congo, currently living in Zimbabwe. It's really a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this refugee-led conversation on climate action. And this conversation is going to reflect on different experiences that young refugees are doing in their respective communities, and then we will then come up with a certain way forward on how we can address this issue of climate action, climate change, sorry. So as you can see, today I'm here with different panelists from different backgrounds, different countries, different cultures, who are going at least to share different experiences on the work that they do in their community. So with me, we are having Yves Moza, who is a Burundian refugee with a passion for climate advocacy and refugee education. He currently resides in Zimbabwe, where he works as a renewable energy engineer at Associated Energies International, a youth-led organization that he founded. He previously managed a project in Tongogara refugee camp that was funded by the Women Refugee Commission through the Global Refugee Youth Network. He also volunteered with UNHCR, Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. He is a member of the Refugee Education Council under World Vision Canada and works with Refugees for Future. He fled Burundi due to the invasion of his village by rebels and has been living as a refugee in Zimbabwe since 1998. Currently, is enrolled in a master program in energy and nuclear engineering and is also a DAFI alumni. And we also have Lisa Teixeira. She's an architect, a planner, environmental scientist, and gender mainstreaming analyst. She has worked on climate rescue projects for over 2 decades, which have included mangroves reseeding of ravines and the creation of seed banks at the fringes of Mexico City, reforestation projects, including a project for the monarch butterfly, and in the Syria North, saving of special bee populations. While within the context of a family, she did not begin this work. She inherited the tradition and the responsibility to carry it forward until the next generation is ready. She also became the victim of political corruption, land grabbing, and narco violence. Yeah, and she has also the privilege to work and interact with some of the Mexico's most important. We also have another panelist who is Katira, who is an Afghan refugee living in Karachi, Pakistan, and she is a member of the Refugee Education Council Canada 2022-2023. With a master's degree in human resources management and an MBA, she started teaching refugee girls in a community due to cultural norms that denied girls from going to school and the lack of proper funding to facilitate quality learning for many students. Katira was homeschooled by her mother till class 4 and studied in refugee school till class 8. She transitions to a host country school for higher education. Katira works as a volunteer refugee leader to help a community in getting admission to educational institutions. She also works to spread the DAFI scholarship awareness to the refugee community. Her goal is to raise the challenges and problems that refugee students face and help them to access to higher education. Katira believes education is only means of a brighter future and the only way to stop making further refugees. So I would like to welcome you all to this conversation. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going already to start with Lisa. Lisa, my first question I'm going to address to you. So I would like at least to hear more from you, like we want to hear about your project and what motivated you to come up with the idea of addressing climate change. So Lisa, over to you.
I am going to be a little bit frank with you that I stumbled into this. I came out of school and sort of there weren't any jobs when I when I came out of school, and environmental science was very new as an education topic. And so I sort of went back into school and I studied it. And then I was in Mexico, and I was studying in the United States, and I went back home to Mexico, and all of a sudden I had work everywhere. And this was really fantastic, but this was also something very important in my family. And so when I say I inherited this tradition, it is because I married into a family that had a political background, and the men in this family that were politicians were very concerned about the environment. And I'm talking about going back to the 1920s and the 1940s, which I don't think anybody saw that on the radar at that time. And so in my former husband died of cancer, by the way, so I can kind of put that into context. But my father-in-law had done paintings. He was a painter, and he had done paintings that had been put up in Mexico City, and they had to be taken down because people thought they were controversial, because he was complaining about the government's behavior and response to the environment. And this was in 1949. So, and then his cousin, who had been a governor, was creating land reforms to respond to the environment, and these were controversial, although they were adopted. So, you know, my former husband's family was very conscientious about the environment in Mexico, and this was, I can't really tell you why, but this was something that was important to them. In fact, one of this governor's sayings was, "You can tell the character of a people by the way that they treat their geography." So, and this is going back 100 years ago. So this was always something that was very important to them. And my father-in-law had a tradition of making paintings, I mean, beautiful landscapes. And on the bottom, he would put, they could be the most gorgeous landscapes, but, and he would sell them. He would put antes que los acaban, meaning before they are destroyed. So, like I said, this was something I, in a way, inherited, and with or without my consent, I'm carrying this on because my children now are involved as well in this, you know, in this march. And nobody thought it would be, at the time, even when I studied this, when it was novel, did we ever think it would turn into and explode into what it has become today. So I think that that's where my perspective and where it came from. And then, you know, I live in a country where geography is so diverse and so delicate. So, I mean, Mexico is an extremely beautiful country, but it's also in a lot of danger. So that is where I come from. And I'm so honored and so grateful and so interested in all of you. I'm so grateful to be here today, and I so thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing at least your perspective on how at least you managed to like join this world of climate action. So now I think I would like to move on to Yves, who is leading a great project energy. So Yves, would you like to tell us more about the project and maybe also your motivation? Please, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Pat. So yeah, my name is Ivo Mwoza, and I did my undergraduate degree at Chino University of Technology, where I majored in fuels and energy engineering. And during my final year, I got interested in renewable energy. And this is what led me to start this initiative called Assorted Energies International. And our target is mainly to address the electricity shortages that is faced within the nation of Zimbabwe by coming up with sustainable energy solutions. So we got privileged of getting funding from the Global Refugee Youth Network. And starting from March this year, we were implementing a renewable energy project in Tongogara refugee camp for the past 3 months. And some of the activities that we carried out were, the first one, we did some solar system installations at other refugee-led initiatives in the camp, namely the Transformation Innovation Hub and Twins. We also went on to make donations of solar lights to vulnerable people in the community, which includes persons with disabilities. We also went on to facilitate capacity building. And this is how we basically offered some trainings or information sessions to refugee youth and women in the camp on various topics, from climate change to how to design a solar system and the installation process. So what basically motivated me to come up with this initiative, I would like to talk about 3 points. So the first point was due to the electricity shortages, of course. In Zimbabwe, we talk of continued load shedding that is being experienced in the urban centers. And also we look at the lack of electricity in remote areas. And also the other point was the environmental impacts as well, which is imposed by power generation. We look at most of the power which is generated in Zimbabwe, it comes from coal-fired power plants. And we know that the result of using coal is that it emits greenhouse gases, which goes into the atmosphere and results in climate change. We also have the incidence of human-induced emissions. For example, we have so many people here in Zimbabwe who make use of livestock rearing, such as the keeping of chicken and pigs. And as a result, it releases some waste matter, fecal matter, which also contribute to emissions of methane, which is one of the precursors for climate change. And also the other thing which led us to start this initiative has always been on how to impact, how to contribute towards sustainable development of refugees. You know, in a country like Zimbabwe, where we look at hardships to do with employment, we see that refugees are disproportionately affected. So what we basically wanted to do was to make an impact and improve on refugee livelihoods, as well as contribute towards self-reliance of refugees by impacting them with necessary skills and knowledge, so that they can they can contribute towards the development of their communities, as well as the nation and the world at large. Thank you so much.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Heaves. Yeah, and I understand that your project has been really impactful, and it's really good to at least try and promote the use of green energy while combating the negative environmental impact of other power generation stations. So now I would like to move to Katira, who has been also active in encouraging also people to, go to school, and then also trying to address also climate change. So Katira, I would like also to understand at least your experience. Yeah, so please tell us.
Okay, so living in Karachi, Pakistan and Afghanistan, people hardly believe in climate change. People, I don't believe, even in my family, people do not believe in climate change. So it's very hard to make them understand what actually climate change is. So there is very, like a practical example of how the climate has been affected, has affected our society. From 1st July till now, it has continuously raining in this Asia Pacific region, like in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and there has been lots of floods. Due to the floods, even the cities have drawn up. In Pakistan, there is a 2-day from the government side to all school, colleges, and offices because of the continuous rain, because of the floods, because of the lightning and thunderstorm. So this is one of the best example to make the people understand that what climate change is. Because in Karachi, we did not see a single drop of rain in past 3 years, and suddenly in 1-2 months, it has rained like 10 years. These are the example why we actually I did not study about the climate change either in my school or my university. I got to know about this through Twitter or Instagram, where different climate activity I followed different climate activists like Greta and others. So then I started searching about climate change, what actually it is. Like I was also very curious that some of the United States president denied that there is actually climate change. So I started searching about this, but actually this is, and I got to know that actually this really exists. Like how the climate of our whole earth is changing. Like in this past 2 months, in June and July, in August, in Asia Pacific, it's been raining like I madly. I can't explain how it's raining very badly. Everything has been like gone. In European countries, it's most of the time is very cold. In European country, we have witnessed it's a heat wave. Like it never happens. It never happens in European countries like in UK. In Australia, it's snowing. So this shows that how the climate has been changed in different part of the world. And the most why I'm talking about the rain is because the rain has mostly affected the refugee areas. Refugees are living in a refugee camp. If you all have information, recently Afghanistan was again captured by Taliban. It was in August last month, 15th of August last year, sorry, 15th of August last year, Afghanistan was captured again by Taliban. So almost millions of other Afghans again were forced to migrate to Pakistan or Iran or some other regions. In Karachi, we have seen that new asylum seeker and new refugees have come here. They are living in they do not even have camps. They do not have camps. They are literally living under bridges. There are so many bridges. They are living there. They have been affected the most. So our refugees are being affected due to climate change. And I had this one project which I worked. I took course of in Canvas, where I explained about my project. I had a project that in Pakistan there are buffet type of wedding. In buffet type wedding, like there are 10 to 20 type of food. So from that 10 to 20 type food, they have for 200 people, and most of that food get wasted, and all of those foods are uh, dumped in the streets. If you go to the streets after every other in the morning, you will see a lot of food out there in the street. Like I will say that these kind of waste food generates methane gas, which is very critical for the climate change of a society. So I and three of other people, girls from my university started this project that we will start to collect all those leftover food from the weddings and then distribute it to either those who do not have home, or to the refugee camps who really need them the most. This will help in decreasing the methane gas which is generated by the waste food in the street. So yeah, this is what I have done till now. I'm working for the refugee education. That's my main purpose. We are working for the education because I know how it's very difficult for the refugees living in Pakistan. It's very difficult to get the higher education. Almost it's like impossible. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Katira. I understand that you have a lot to share with us. Yeah, I know that I will come back to you. Understand what's future impact would you like to see in your community with the activities that you are conducting? Please, you can go ahead.
Well, obviously, I've worked for quite a while, so I've done a lot of different kinds of projects, whether they've been You know, we were talking about the ability to, I've had to restore the butterfly reserve or mangoes because I'm an architect and a planner. So those types of solid projects, I've had the privilege of being involved with. In fact, the butterfly reserve I got involved with, you know, very early on after the scientists were able to determine the migration of the monarch butterfly between Canada, Mexico, and the United States when I was really quite a young person. So some of these kind of solid projects, I'm very lucky in terms of the kind of work that I do, that I get called in to be involved with them. And one of the projects that I ended up working a very long time on was there was a sewage dam break outside of Mexico City, and that involved me in working with women that were vulnerable in terms of housing. And it was, we have three forms of land tenure in Mexico. We have public land, private land, and informal land, a communal land system. And this creates a lot of, I'm going to say, disjuncture as to who owns what land in the country. And so women are very susceptible to losing or having land housing rights taken away from them. They're very vulnerable in this system. Now, you're beginning to, for the first time, see a lot of push on the Mexico-US border with and seeing encampments, seeing refugee camps, which we had not ordinarily seen before, because en route through Mexico, the Northern Triangle countries, there are a very good series of sort of assistance centers, but with the Stay in Mexico program that had been launched by the Trump administration and was carried on until last week by the Biden administration, not because of President Biden, but because of the courts, there had been very large migrant encampments. They're not necessarily refugee encampments because of the way that people are classified. So I don't want to get into that conversation because it's long, but these are very dangerous places. They are not safe. They are not considered that just because of the narco-terrorism in the country. So I am working now at this point because I'm in the United States, because I had to flee Mexico. I work more on trying to change policy than that. I didn't think that would be the area in my life I would go into because of where I came from, but that's where I have sort of moved toward, because there's and that involves climate change, it involves housing, it involves a whole set of issues. But I also work with, basically my focus is on the vulnerability of women. Okay, and that is going to, that works on the women that are in this migrant process and the situations that they are pushed into on the border, the US-Mexico border, and what happens to them on this side in the United States as well. So that's my focus right now, but trust me, I push the envelope with a lot of politicians. Okay, so it's been an interesting process from where I came from to where I am right now. Okay, because I ended up being a victim of, I studied these women 30 years ago on the other side when they didn't migrate. I ended up being a victim in that process, and now I try and change policy. So that's what I do now.
Oh, that's so really interesting for also covering vulnerable women. I think you should really keep up with this great work. So let me now move on to Yves Umoza, Associated Energy International. So tell me, what's changed and what do you like to see Tongogara Refugee Camp in the future with your activities?
Yes, so before we installed solar systems to other refugee-led initiatives, um, electricity shortage has been a critical challenge in that uh, these refugee-led initiatives were unable to carry out their activities. At nighttime, they couldn't make use of electrical gadgets such as laptops, such as phones, such as projectors during their activities. So when we talk of the Transformation Innovation Hub, it's a refugee-led organization, Itubuka Refugee Camp, and they're basically providing skills to the residents on personal and professional development. And prior to providing them with electricity shortage, their activities were inactive because they couldn't carry out any activities. So now that they have electricity, we see them making use of laptops or charging their phones, using projectors, which makes their activities more effective. And also, right now, we see them generating revenue from offering phone charging services to camp residents, which is something that's very amazing and something that was not possible or prior. And looking at Twins is also another refugee-led initiative, and they're advocating on quality education. They're offering free tutoring to refugee students, and also providing them with educational resources. Right now, because of the 3 kVA solar system that we installed for them, they've uh, they've quality power supply, and right now at their center they can accommodate more students who go there to study. Yes, and also they also work for longer hours and make use of daytime, unlike before when they would only make use of afternoon. And even the solar system that they had then, it was very small to the extent that they couldn't make use of long hours at night. So this really made a great intervention. And also looking at the high cost of actually buying solar systems, it's really something that really helped them a lot. And also the other thing was we impacted skills and knowledge on renewable energy technologies, climate change to residents in the camp. And after facilitating these capacity building sessions, we provided them with certificates. And with these certificates, when we look at adult learners, they are able to pursue further with their education in related field of studies, such as renewable energy, climate change. And also, we also noticed during the sessions, we also noticed a number of students who were there, and some of them, they really got interested in pursuing further with their higher education as well in topics like renewable energy, climate change. And also, we noticed during our trainings, we also noted even the locals, they would also attend. And I would say that these sessions, they really built, they also facilitated a peaceful coexistence between refugees and the locals, in the host community. And also, by providing lights to disabled people, we notice that electricity being a critical challenge, we see those living with disabilities, they are also affected, and that during nighttime they don't have access to lighting. So I would say that this is by providing them with lights, they now have access to lighting sources, which they can now utilize nighttime, and this would prevent instances of maybe accidents owing to their disabilities. So I would say that the project that we implemented, it really revived the passion for higher education within the camp residents. At the same time, mitigating climate change. And what would like to really see in the future as an organization, or I personally, is to see having more refugees who are passionate about, climate change and starting up their own climate initiatives, addressing the climate change in one way or the other. And also, as an organization, we hope to gain partnership with NGOs as well, and allow us to access funding to actually address these recurring challenges of energy, this energy crisis, and to also make more donations, not only on electricity wise, but also donating alternative heating sources for cooking, such as a biomass stove, which is also a good way of also of mitigating climate change. And also, we really hope to advance further as well with our work, not just within the context of Tungugara refugee camp, but to also have our work, reaching even other refugee camps that are facing the same challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. He. Impacts of your project. It's not only to install solar panels at different refugee youth-led initiatives, and but you are trying at least to empower refugees to become climate change advocate. So let me now go to Katira. I understand that we cannot talk about climate change without talking about education. I've been seeing you at least trying to encourage young people, especially the girl child, to go back to school. And then you've been also trying at least, to address the issue of climate change. So I want also to understand at least the positive impact that you've made in your community, and maybe with what you are doing, like how do you like to see your community in the future?
The positive impact which I have seen in my community is long back. I don't know. It will take a lot of time if I go back to all the story, but making it short. When I was young, a very young refugee, I actually thought that this is actually my country. I was not aware of being a refugee in a country. I got to know that I'm a refugee way back when I went to the local Pakistani school, when I was treated differently. That is when I got to know I'm actually a refugee. So most of the refugees living in Karachi used to go to refugee school, and the refugee school follows the syllabus of Afghanistan, and that is actually not acceptable in Pakistan universities and Pakistan education system. That is why most of the refugees were left out of higher education, because they were not given admission in Pakistani school. What I and my sisters and especially my parents did was to advocate for them to higher authorities that give them admissions in at least in schools and in colleges. And I used to teach almost, I had like 200 students, and out of them most were young girls who were literally denied by their parents to go to school, even to refugee school, which was separate for girls. Even they were not allowed to go that to do a separate school for girls. So the positive impact which I did is I actually persuaded the parents and most of the students to go for a local Pakistani school instead of the refugee school, because for the refugee school we do not have a future for higher education. And if I am getting a good degree from the Pakistani school, from the Pakistani university, it means that I will have a good future for my own when I go back to my own country. I can serve my own country through that knowledge. So this is what and right now in Afghan refugee school, you won't see a lot of students. Almost most of the students have transitioned to Pakistani school in the Pakistani colleges, and thank God we have a lot of students, and we have some of the female students who opt for the medical MBBS, and that is one of the best thing, because we in our country Afghanistan we do not have doctors. We do not have female doctors at all. All of the people from Afghanistan who are living in Afghanistan just for a basic treatment come to either Pakistan, Iran, or some other neighboring countries. So in that case, it is one of the best thing to to come out of the refugee camp, go for the local universities and admit yourself for the local universities, learn something, get a degree, and in that way we can not only serve this society which we are living in Pakistani society, we can also serve our own country. With our own country need really doctors, our own country needs engineers, our own country needs educated people. And through education, I really believe that education is the only means that you can actually persuade people for something good of the society. Like I've already told you, people do not believe in climate change in our society. They are not aware of the climate change. When I talk about the climate change, even in my own family, they are like, what is this? They do not believe it. You have to sit and make them understand that what actually climate change is. And we really hope that I am working on this project of mine, which I have told you that is to collecting leftover food from the weddings and distribute it to either needy people or to the refugee camps. So the positive it was a very positive impact, but unfortunately, since our country again got under the capture of Taliban, so it was very devastating for me and my own family, because those people who were once forced migrated to Pakistan, they went back to Afghanistan, they made their life, and again when the country was under the Taliban control, they again were forced to migrate to Pakistan. So it was the second time for them to become a refugee. That was not the end, and it's not only becoming refugee, but coming back to Pakistan, living in the refugee camp, not having anything to eat, anything to anywhere to stay. That is one of the, after a positive impact, we have also a negative impact in our society. Again, we are having refugees are coming day by day, they are not getting places, they are not being accepted by the governments. So really, in this stage, I really hope that I have contacted different NGOs that we would work for the new asylum seekers, because the climate change would have the most effect on them, because they are not living in a house, they are living literally in the streets, under the bridges.
Yeah, I think let me just remain again with you. Like, where do you find hope when you see the true devastating impacts climate change is having on refugees and displaced people? And as you said that you try at least to conduct some secondary research on climate change. So how do you wish people would understand about climate change? So Katira, we are still with you. Please go ahead. Please, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry. So people, I guess, are understanding because we have seen the practical effect of climate change in our society. Like I've said to you, since July 1st till now, we are having very bad rains. Like it's literally flooding everywhere. If you go and search about the floods in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, or Asia Pacific, you will know that it's been raining since July. It's raining badly, and most of the cities have drawn up. Most of the villages have drawn up. Since 2 days, it's off in whole Karachi, in whole some of the part of Pakistan, like the two states of Pakistan, Sindh and Punjab, because they are literally hit by a very bad flood. So that is what when during last year when I was talking about the climate change and about how the weather is getting warmer and colder at the same time. In winter it's colder, in summer it's warmer. So some of my colleagues used to say that it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. If it's getting warmer, it's also getting colder. So there's nothing like climate change. But now they are actually believing in climate change, because we did not see a single drop of rains for the past few years, and now we are seeing that floods are coming in our cities. That is what climate change actually is, and there is a hope because people are actually acknowledging the climate change, and we hope that if we start this is one of the best session. If we have one of some session like this and put it on the YouTube, or even have guests, some guests from participants, so we can try to understand the people that what actually climate is. They should believe in this. Like when you talk about if you are having so many cars, if you are using your AC or other thing that generates different kind of gases which affects our society, they will not believe in that. They will say that or if I'm using my car, other people are also using their car. What will happen if for my single car? So that is what, if every person starts saying this will definitely have a bad impact on the society. I hope that it's not only the people in our society that I don't think it's only about uneducated people. Even the very educated people, politicians also do not believe in the climate change. They also are like against the climate change activists, and they actually do not believe on cutting trees. Like I recently I got aware about the news in India. There is a forest, a very deep forest in Mumbai, and that forest was sold out by the government to a businessman for his plant. I think it was a coal plant or something like that. If you are giving your whole forest, deep forest, for a coal plant, what is the point of being that the government? You like, if you're the government, you need to protect your country. You're giving your forest for a coal mine. That is one of the thing that I've listened, that it does not depend on the being educated or uneducated. It's about the, what we say, that it's about the belief, that you should believe that your um, world is changing, the climate of your world is changing, and I don't know what will happen to the future, like the future of this world. To the young generation will definitely blame us that we did not do anything for our world.
All right, thank you so much, Katira, for at least providing insight on this topic. So let me now go to Lisa. The same question to you, please. You can go ahead.
I think there are a number of things. Number one, we are seeing, for example, where I live, the largest migration at the moment of people across the globe due to climate change, moving from the south to the north, from one continent to the other, from Central America toward the US-Mexico border, because of certain destructions of climate change, land grabbing, narco violence, all of these things that are mixed into a bag. And I didn't realize that statistic until about 3 or 4 days ago. But it's all mixed up together, and it's only going to get worse. So right now, this is the largest migration of people across the globe. And I don't see that that's going to change anytime soon, due to a number of factors. And it can be economic, it can be, different trade agreements. There's been aid thrown at the problem over and over again without a lot of success. But there needs to be real change. We have over and over and over again created trade agreements throughout the world, but we have not, just as Katya has brought up, we've got we haven't had a technological revolution. We've had an economic revolution that's backed that up, but we have not created a justice revolution, a new legality for a new reality. And so how do we begin to implement, controls or controls of power I mean, the nation state maybe isn't necessarily the best solution anymore to deal with some of these things, because there isn't any control over it. Now, where do I find hope? I think we saw something very interesting go on with the pandemic, is that when people were locked in, the earth began to heal itself. So that, if we allow it to do so, it can, and it will, and it might. Will it do so at the speed that we need it to, with the way that we take advantage of it? I'm not sure, but it can. Okay, it has the potential to do so without us, grabbing and destroying it. Now, what does that mean? I mean, I see a migrant and refugee crisis where I am at exploding. there are technological advances, for example, in agri-tech, in green tech, as you know, one of our colleagues here is talking about, in ed tech. Those things need to be implemented, and they need to be implemented quickly. Wageningen University in the Netherlands, for example, has this amazing agricultural technology where they can, by and large, create food supply at a 7-to-1, meaning, you know, you need a very small amount of water, and they do mass greenhousing. Well, you know, this needs to be implemented in various sections of the world, because, you know, the land supply, and for example, what happened in my case, is in short supply, and crops are not yielding what they need to yield. And in some cases, you know, land is being grabbed or stolen. In other cases, it's not productive anymore. In other cases, we have methane issues, et cetera, et cetera. So we do need food production. That goes without saying. How can we do it more effectively and more efficiently? So I think we're behind the curve, and yet how do we get governments to behave that need to behave? So, you know, we've got a lot of questions to answer. I think in some cases we do know the solutions, but they have to be implemented. And that's where in comes a power and justice component that we have not resolved as an international community. So those are the challenges too.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let me now go back to Hips. Hips, I hope you got well the question, where do you find hope? And how do you want people to hear, maybe to understand about climate change?
Oh, thank you so much, Bob. Yeah, so I've been a climate advocate, and I think there is need for advocacy, because I feel that climate education it's a lake, and I think when the international community gets to understand the impact that climate change is having upon the refugees and displaced communities, they would respond by providing support, and to also be prepared of the future, because climate change is real, and it's really resulting in the loss of lives, you know, human displacement. We look at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's one of the reports they mentioned about how climate change is resulting in increased human displacement. And looking at the context of Zimbabwe, for instance, you notice that Zimbabwe is an agricultural based economy, meaning to say that the majority, the majority of the income it's generated from agriculture. And now we look at the incidence of droughts, reduced rainfall. This is something that has a direct impact upon the income generated. And also looking at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they recently talked about something to do with climate colonialism. And in my own understanding, also in the context of Zimbabwe, where we see it, for instance, this is something climate change can actually, you know, contribute contribute towards increasing the political tension itself. For example, we looked at things like distribution of food aids. So you see that if our failure to actually control climate change, we'll notice probably, you know, a conflict between different political groups, and then responding with violence and war. And as a result, we notice loss of lives. So I really wish that people would really understand that we need to act upon climate change, because climate change is real. us, we might not experience much, really. We might not know much. But if we look at other regions, there are people who are really affected. And I think this is a global crisis, and it's something that needs each and every one of us to really contribute, from just being an individual to even larger corporations. So I think there is need for more advocacy on that. And we need to see, the international community intervening, within in various ways. For example, the digitalization of the education system, even contributing towards, the construction of climate resilient infrastructure for schools and even livelihoods. We look at the Tongogara refugee camp. In 2019, it got affected by Cyclone Idai, which destroyed a number of water systems and even shelters. So I think the international community should be aware of it and should respond in like manner, and also, and also be in a position to quickly respond to regions that are climate hotspots. Yes, so thank you.
So we were told that the future belongs to us, but the presence belongs to us too. So the time is now to act and get involved. So since we are together again with you, so I would like just to hear from you, since we've been talking about climate change. There are so many people watching you. So what would you like them to take away from this conversation in only 1 minute? Please go ahead.
I would really like people to understand that climate change is real, and it's something that if it persists, it could exacerbate, the socio-economic development of the country, as well as the political situation as well. So I think we ought to take action from an individual participation to large cooperation to ensure that the future is more sustainable, more inclusive, and most of all, it's climate resilient. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. So let me go to Katira. Katira, what would you like the audience to take away from this conversation?
Okay, so from my side, like I have said that I've never studied or been educated for climate change, but for the past 2-3 years, I have researched about it. I got to know about the climate change. I practically saw the impact of climate change. So my message for everyone will be climate change is actually real. If we do not believe it, if we do not accept it, and we do not work to make a better society for the future generation, the future generation would definitely blame us, because it is definitely in our hand to make this world a better place for our next generation. So it's in our hand. We should accept it. We should work on it. And we should make it a very good place because it is a good place. Our world is the best place, but it's we, the people, that we have made it like the hell for us. And we should not make it the hell for the next future generation.
This is well noted and well understood. Thank you. So let me go to Lisa. Lisa, what's your takeaway, and what would you like people watching you to take away from this conversation? Please go ahead.
Well, I think it's the age-old question: is the universe a friendly place or a hostile place? And each individual has a part to play, but we are a mightier force together than we are apart. So we have to come together to decide that we can change this. And the earth, it doesn't belong to us. And I believe that for me, I've had the privilege of spending my time around indigenous communities in both Mexico and the United States. I grew up with one in Mexico, on the Totonacas, and here also in the US, I'm very near to one. And I think that they have a much deeper respect for the earth and its movements and its ways of life and the wisdom of the earth. I think that the closer we can stay to that, and if we begin to learn to work with the way that nature works instead of trying to imprint ourselves or vary ourselves away from it. Like we are the dominion, the master of this planet, which we aren't. I think that we will do our best to begin to move forward and learn to integrate ourselves back into our proper place with nature and move forward and find solutions.
All right, thank you so much to our panelists for your time and experience you have shared with us. I hope this will help us and the world to manage climate change. And to all those who are watching us, as you can see on your screen, these are our social media accounts. Climate is up on us. Appreciating the situation will enable us to come up with informed decision. Let's be proactive rather than reactive. Thank you.